Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah, Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz, tea time. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time.
Well, good morning and welcome to Tea Time. That's right, it is August 10th, 2023. Did you imagine that we're almost at the end of another year, 8 months into 2023? And I have the incredible Michael Gardner here. He is the incredible podcast host of the Unfiltered, Savage Unfiltered. And we're going to be talking about podcasting, acting, disc jockey, his books, merchandise, all that good stuff. So grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your breakfast. Make sure to share this tea time if it resonates with you or a family member. I'm going to do all of the good stuff and I'm going to get the disclaimer out there, then a little intro in the bio, and then I'm going to spill a good strong TEA with Michael this morning. So again, let's get this going. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, it may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussion for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It's significant to note that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you find that this show is not made for you at this time, I respect that and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. Again, all tea times this year are done on a Thursday, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless it is a rescheduled tea time, then it is done on a Monday or Tuesday. So a little bit now on Michael. So Michael Gardner is a native of the Lower East Side of Manhattan, New York City, now residing in Central Florida. He's been in radio since 2004 and has worked for several stations back up in the north. In the early 20s as a fill-in disc jockey, as well as working with behind the scenes as well with production. He's also wrote a book, which is on Amazon, and the link is in the comment section and on Miss Liz's Facebook page. So check that out. Grab your copy. It is called The American Political Warfare, Our Modern Civil War. He's also has experience in film and has starred in film. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And we're going to get Michael in here, and I'm going to sip on my tea so I can get my tongue rolling back to where it needs to go. Welcome, Michael.
How's it going, Miss Liz? How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
It is going good. I don't know. It's almost like my anxiety kicks in and my tongue just does all this weird tongue twisting, stupid stuff when I get going, right? So, Michael, what haven't I shared with the audience that you'd like to have shared?
Well, I think you got everything pretty much accurate. I like how you mentioned the experience with the radio shows um, and the radio programs that I've worked for earlier in the 2000s. So much appreciated to that. Um, I have some new websites that I launched, but we can get into that later on if you'd like. But other than that, I mean, I'm just glad to be here. Been checking out your show recently, and I like the vast majority of people that you bring on. Kind of like myself. You bring it all on Miss Liz Teatime, and I love it.
Well, we have to share different flavors and blends, right? We got to spill it and make a real good old big mess. And everyone that comes on tea time, they think, "Oh, I don't drink tea, Miss Liz. I don't like tea." Well, we don't serve the beverage tea here. We serve teaching educational awareness. That's what Miss Liz's tea is. So, Michael, I want to get into your tea right away, and then we're going to get into all of the other good stuff that you're doing. So, Michael, when I ask you what your TEA is, what three words would you give me this morning?
Well, T. Okay. The first one, let's start with T then. Okay. The most important letter of T. I would start with topic. Love to create the topic, talk about the topic, and discuss the topic between myself and the guest or whoever I have on the show. So, topic is the most important uh, word of T. So, topic, topic, topic.
What would you give me for the letter E and A?
E, I would go with excellence. Behind topic, you have to driven or drive the excellence behind that topic. You have to create the narrative. You have to explain the narrative and also go through the narrative through excellence. You have to make everything excellent through that topic. So the last one, I would go with ability. You need to have good ability in order to create the first two of the topic and your excellence. So, topic, excellence, and ability. Those are my three top peeves of myself, and I think everybody should live by that. I mean, don't you think?
I absolutely think so. And Michael, I like the way that you did that because that's exactly what you do, right? As a podcast host, you got to pick up some topics. You got to be excellent at serving those topics, and you have to have the ability to understand the topics.
Absolutely.
So that just it flows good. Like that is you, Michael. Like that is a good strong cup of tea this morning. Like, we as podcasters, we have to do our homework. We can't just turn the camera on and say, "Cheese, here we are," right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, anyone can go on a mic, but in order to create that show, that episode, or whatever, I see a lot, Miss Liz, like podcasting is branched into so many different angles. Whether they're small little clips or they're or they take blogs and they create it into video. So I mean, you have to keep scale on it 100% of the time.
I like that you said that
You know.
because for all the podcasters out there that are doing little clippies, you we're working our butts off. Come on, give us something to work against. Give us some competition here. So that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
we were talking in the background before we went live. There's so many podcasts out there. So what got you into podcasting, Michael?
Well, what got me into podcasting was a lot of my previous work with radio. I've worked for some big names back up north, and um, I loved what I was doing. I love having that voice on the radio and everything, and creating that content and creating that audience with the station. I loved it, but after a while, you tend to get a little bored with it. because for those who are not aware, the difference between podcasting and terrestrial radio or talk radio, it's scripted. With terrestrial, it's very, very scripted. So I felt like, after a while of doing it, Miss Liz, like you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over and over. The top of the hour, you have to get your cards in, or they don't call them cards anymore. They call them sponsors. You have to get all that stuff out, station identification. And I'm like, all right, this is not me. I need to find myself and reinvent myself. So what I decided to do was I decided to take like a 3-year gap between talk radio, terrestrial, to then, going 4 years ago, because I've been doing the podcasting now for 4 years, I had to decide to take like a 3-year gap. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to, figure myself out and reinvent myself. What am I going to do? Am I going to go, write books? Which I do now, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But I really had to figure myself out. So that's what I decided to do 4 years ago. Around 2019, came up with some ideas, was looking at some podcasting networks to see exactly what would fit my new podcast. And I'm going to tell you, Miss Liz, it was hard, to try to find something, to try to find the name, the image, everything behind it. I went through 3 names to where I'm at now, Savaged Unfiltered. And I could tell you right now, it was like, all right, this is working. After a couple months, now this doesn't work anymore. We need to rebrand. This is pretty good. We stayed with Patriot Angle for like almost like a year and a half. And the type of guests, the type of content I was bringing in, I was losing the Patriot part of it and going more into a raw, in-depth type of podcast, type of show. So talking to my producer, Shaky, and I'm like, Shaky, we have to like rebrand. He's like, we just freaking rebrand. Like, how many rebrands are we going to do? This is like going to be the 3rd one, Michael. I'm like, well, sometimes you have to rebrand, like sometimes you have to find your niche quiche in order to keep it live and keep it fresh. So I'm like, what should we do? And he's like, you have any ideas? I'm like, we're getting a lot of like raw cut people on the show. It's becoming very savaged. And that's where the name came from, Savaged. And at first it was going to be called Savaged Unfiltered. And then my producer, a good friend of mine, we grew up together up in New York, New Jersey area. And we worked together in a couple of stations back up north. And now he runs his own production company along with myself over in Tampa. And he says, well, we got to be careful with that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, the great late, or great late. I got to stop saying late. He's not dead yet. But the great Michael Savage of Savage Nation podcast, excuse me. And he's like, oh, shit, yeah, we do have to be careful. So I had to put the D at the end of Savage. So, obviously to channel out the copyrights. But
yeah, because I was going to ask you where you got that name, Savage Unfiltered, because I like it,
Yeah.
And I like the word unfiltered because we're filtering too much today.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm talking your ear off.
No,
pause me
that's
every now and
okay.
then if you have to.
You can just talk, because that's what we're here for, right? We're here to talk and open up and have a discussion. And I'm enjoying the conversation, Michael.
Yeah.
And we always try to figure out why, like the niche and the quiche. I like that. I really like that, the niche and the quiche, because we need a niche.
Yeah, you got to find your niche quiche in life,
Right? We got to stand out. There's so many out there. We got to be different. We got to do something different. And adding a D, who knew adding a D would open up your podcast?
Yeah, Miss Liz, I actually got an email from Michael Savage,
Oh.
And and I'm like, oh shit. And
I'm in trouble.
yeah, I'm like, oh man, there goes there goes some copyright violations and everything else. Shit, you know. And he was like, I like what you're doing. And I wrote back, you know, there was more to the email, but it was a lengthy email. But just to kind of give you like a brass tass of it, he's like, I like what you're doing. But continue what you're doing. And I'm just kind of giving you like little bits and pieces of it and everything. And I wrote back, I said, you know, I don't want to copy everything that you do. I just like the word savaged, you know, and I'm not creating this show to piggyback off of your content. I'm creating it because of the type of content and the type of material I'm bringing on the show. And that's basically what the email was. But I was scared shit. I thought it was like a copyright infringement letter. I was like, cease and desist letter. I'm like, oh, shit. No, I don't need any more of them.
Have you gotten a few of those, Michael?
Yeah, I got a few in the early days of the show. You know, when we were Patriot Angle, I got a few. Actually, got a few from World Wrestling Entertainment of Kurt Angle because I was using a sound effect. It wasn't all from WWE, but it was like a 1 second clip of like the theme from Kurt Angle. You know, because he's all about America and you know the whole patriotic theme behind it. And they were like, you need to eliminate that from your show. Absolutely. Like right away, eliminate it. You know, that's basically what a cease and desist letter is. You know, you have to get rid of it. You got to promise that you're not going to air it because they're kind of giving you a warning, Miss Liz, like before they actually sue you, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like a red flag, right? Like on YouTube or something, we get our red flags, you know, oh, you can't be saying that. No, we're going to, you know, mute your video until you fix it. You know, you
pretty much,
you know, more or less you just get rid of it and you just come another way. That's the way I do it. I just remove it and start over, you know? So Michael, I want to get into, as you shared, when you sent me your bio, you have a personal story and you want to you would like to share that personal story. So I want to get into understanding who Michael is as a little guy and as who you are today, Michael. So what has happened for you to transform into the person you are today?
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot. I guess we could share, you know, some of like the experience like through radio, if that's what you want to hear. You know, I before radio and everything else, I always had a huge passion and interest of talking. Sometimes I don't shut up. Sometimes I don't know when to shut up. And my mother, especially my mother, my father a little bit, but my mother, we'll get into my father a little bit, but which is kind of sad. But anyway, my mother would always say, you know, Michael, put the periods and commas after your sentences. And as a little boy, you really don't understand, or, you know, it doesn't really resonate in your brain, like what that means. So, I mean, I remember at 5 years old, I'm talking and talking and talking, like literally talking my mouth off to family members and everything. And I would come up with these stories. And I mean, they were stories, you know, like everybody knows, like, you know, you ever heard the expression, you know, like you go to your friends or you hang out with your buddies and you shoot the shit. I mean, basically that's what I was doing at 5 years old. I was shooting the shit, you know, like just talking everybody's like ear off, you know, and I would say these stories and half of them were all like fabricated, you know, they're full of lies, but a lot of my family members would be like, you know, that's pretty good. And I would take something and I would basically put about maybe 40 to 50% of fabrication into it just to explain the story, you know? And I mean, this little 6, 8-year-old kid, you know, talking like this was very rare because a lot of kids in my generation, I mean, I'm in my early 40s, so this is like 80s, 90s era, you know, a lot of them, you know, would just be an average kid, go outside, play in the mud, build tree houses. I mean, I've done that, you know, I was a normal kid, but I was a kid that loved telling stories and expressing the stories. Okay. And fast forward into my teenage years, you know, my mother came up to me and my father, and they were like, "Well, what do you want to do, later in life? You're going to be graduating high school soon. So what do you want to do later in life?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And I had like a lost cause on my brain, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had like so many different things, like I've done so much, before I got into like radio and podcasting, but I was working in warehouses. I was doing so much like before,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, I love talking. I love sharing stories, and I remember my grandmother at that point said to me, you should go into radio. And after hearing that, I was like, what? No, like anybody, just nobody can just go into radio. Like
Yeah.
you need to have a voice for it. You need to be talented in that direction. So I was like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good way for me to do that. And I thought about it, and then around like, I guess right around like a little bit after high school, like maybe 2021, there was this college station up in Boston, and they were looking for like a fill-in disc jockey. And I called them up, and I was like, before calling it up, I'm like, I'm just gonna throw it out there, see if I can get in there. Like maybe that will be the start
Yep.
of how to branch into radio. So I call them up, and I'm like, you know what? I think I have a voice. I think I can create something special for your station there. And they're like, well, this is before the internet of what it is now. I mean, everything was a lot different, almost 20-25 years ago. So they're like, well, email us a sample bit of who you are and like what you can bring to the table and everything, and we'll think about it. We'll talk to some producers and executive directors here at the station, and we'll get back to you. We'll stay in touch. Like, all right. A couple days go by. I don't really think about it. It doesn't really cross the mind. A week goes into it already. Like a week passes, and I'm like, oh shit. Like they don't like me. So we're getting into like 2 weeks now, Miss Liz, and then like I get an email back, and it's the executive director to this college station, which no longer exists. Because everything is like even terrestrial back then. I mean, a lot of the AM radio programs now in the States, like half them don't exist because they either lost the funding or they went into other avenues like podcasting, or back in the day there used to be this thing called 360 Live. I think they still exist, but
that was on Yahoo, right?
that was, I think, yeah, you're right. Yeah, Yahoo does own the rights to that. I think they still do exist, but a lot of people don't use their programs and services anymore because of iHeart and Spotify has been literally taking the map of what we see it today. So they get back to me and they're like, we'd like to put you in on a weekly basis as a fill-in. You're not guaranteed on a weekly basis. You're just there to fill in, when anybody calls out or, vacations, this and that. I'm like, oh, great. Oh, well, here's my big start as a substitute disc jockey, like kind of like a substitute teacher, but a substitute disc jockey. So I don't hear from them for like almost 3 weeks. I'm like, I guess no one's taking vacation or calling out. Oh, shit.
Everybody's just staying.
Yeah. So 3 weeks go by, going into a month almost, and they called me and they're like, hey, can you get to downtown Boston here? This guy, Rippin' Rick, they used to call him. And they said, Rick's going to be out today. We need you to fill in for the 2-hour block. And I'm like, okay. When can you get here? Because they knew where I lived. I lived in New York and everything. I'm like, I can get there at what, 3-4 hours. Like what time do you need me there by? Well, we need you here by 6 a.m. Now it's 11:30, 12 o'clock. So they're calling me. And I'm like, all right, let me get in my car and I'll be there in 3-4 hours. And they're like, all right, we'll see you when you get here. Now, when I first got there, okay, talking like we're talking now, I'm more comfortable, obviously 25 years later, but 30 years later. So when I first got there, talking in front of family members and people that you're comfortable with is two different things. Now, getting on a mic and talking to a syndicated terrestrial audience is something entirely different. When I first got there, Miss Liz, I thought they were going to mute the mic and the producer or an executive manager was going to walk into the studio and tell me, you got to go. Because I did a lot of this. Hey, welcome to 1280 a.m. This is Michael Gardner. It's going to be a clear day here. Hold on, let me get the weather. I forgot. I was supposed to. Oh, yeah, it's going to be 67 degrees with a chance of an overcast of thunderstorms later this afternoon. Back to ZZ Top. We'll be right back, guys, after these words. And that's basically how I sound. I was sounding nervous as hell. You know what I mean? But
well, it takes time, right? Because radio is completely different than podcasting. I find podcasting is an easier flow. When you're on the radio, it is scripted. You have to follow. You got to take your breaks. We'll be right back. Podcasting, you can just go straight through.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me, Miss Liz, take a break. Well, I'll take a break. I am taking a break. When my guests are talking, I'm sitting back. I'm taking a break. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you got to take your breaks. You have to, you have to get those sponsor bids in, the ads and everything. I mean, I do that on my show a lot, but not as much as, I would back then. But yeah, you got to get the breaks in. The breaks are more important because after a while of talking, I mean, we've been talking now for 26 minutes. You start to get tired, after like
right?
about 40, 45 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You start to look for the weather. Where's the weather coming from?
Yeah.
When's the storm coming in?
Yeah.
So how did you find your flow? Because you're not like that anymore.
No, God, no. A lot of people are like, I show them a lot of the bits back in the day, and I was sadly I only have a few because the transition from the internet then to the internet now, a lot of it was lost through the shuffle. So, and then a lot of it I wasn't able to save and even pitch on the shows now with my podcast because of the quality. The quality sucked back then. The audio. I mean, as a podcaster, I also help my own producer here, co-produce and do all the editing. So like to try to edit a lot of that old audio, Liz, to now you can't. Some of it we had to throw in the digital garbage, and it sucks. But how did I find my flow? I'm just being me. And I think that's great. Be yourself. It's okay to be your scripted self, but that gets old after a while because no one's going to want to listen to a scripted Michael Gardner. They're going to want to listen to an authentic, through the heart Michael Gardner. Sometimes talking too much and slurring my words, Michael Gardner, because I'm getting tired of talking. They want to hear that. They want to hear the real version of you. They don't want to hear a teleprompter 3-4 feet away from you and you're doing this. People can see your head move and your eyeballs move as you're going through the teleprompter. I mean, we see that with our president in the United States here. like that with your eyes. You know,
Well, you
like,
see that right at the beginning of Tea Time all the time because Miss Liz is reading the disclaimer, and you can tell that I'm reading from the paper.
yeah, we could tell. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
But
my eyes are like, I'm not even focused on the screen. I'm just like, I got to get these words out, right? Because we got to put those disclaimers out because sometimes, we do trigger people and conversations come to the table and we're like, ooh, because there is a lot of things going on in the world. There's a lot of people that are being censored and a lot of things that are saying, censorship is really getting on my nerves. I don't know how it feels for you, Michael, but
oh man, I'll deliver the fire here. I mean, censorship is it's a bitch, Miss Liz.
It is.
Say that, okay? And
right.
I don't know how.
We're filtered this morning, so and it's frustrating as podcasters, that we get censored for certain things, and the truth never comes out because we're always being censored. Don't say that. That's too far. Don't go that way. When did we get so sugar coated? Like, I am so sick of the sugar coat. Let's just be real. Let's be raw. Let's be ourselves. Like you said, be authentic. People know when we're scripting it and when we're not scripting it. People can tell. And I'd rather have the real raw stuff.
Yeah, there's a good thing between good quality and bad quality. Okay, like you just mentioned something really interesting. Be raw, be authentic. Deliver the facts, damn it. But give it on a quality note. Okay, like you could be your authentic self. You can be 100% you. Okay, if you're if you have a foul mouth and you sound like a sailor, that's okay. But what I've learned a long time ago is, it's okay to cuss, but don't excessively cuss, because then that's drawing to a desperate measure. Like, I have people on my show, guessing sometimes, and that's all you hear is shit, fuck, bitch, ass. I mean, whoa, like shaky in my other earpiece.
Yeah, like you can get your message across without using those words, right? Like, you can use them. We all get frustrated. We all get tired. And we do swear, but we don't have to say it every 2 words, to get our message across.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's starting to sound desperate, right? Like when you're cursing all the time, then you're taking away from the actual message and the actual facts.
Yeah. I mean, people think like, oh, I could sell my content across social media if I cuss. If you know how to do it, yeah, I'll agree with you. If you know how to do it, great. Yeah. But people are going to pick up that. They're the guests, they're the listener, they're the audience. They could pick up so much of just who you are in your comfort zone. They see the comfort zone versus the stress zone,
Yeah.
And I see that all the time. The comfort zone versus the stress zone. You're running out of content on your show. You're losing base. You're not knowing what to talk about next. No one's going to want to listen. You're going to get listeners that are just going to dip out. You got to keep it going. It's okay to slow down a little bit.
Right? You got to, and you got to be messy. You got to not worry about being so perfect. You have to have good, excellent content, but you have to be able to say, you know what? Oops, I can't say that word. I can't say that name. Let's get the guests to say it, or let's get the audience to kind of word it out so that Miss Liz can actually say it. Because my tongue, sometimes it just goes all over the place, right? I'm a real tongue twister. My tongue just decides to do whatever it wants because of the conversion disorder that I live with. I don't have any control. If my tongue doesn't want to work, it doesn't want to work. It's tired. It wants to sleep, right? So, that's why I have guests here. That's why they do the talking, and that's why I have Michael here, because he likes to talk. So
I love to talk. I can't. I don't shut up sometimes. I have Miss Liz picking that up right away. Probably like I talk so much sometimes. Like I have to like stop what I'm doing, and have Joseph or cousin Sauce. I have like a couple personalities, but I'll just name them too because they're on my show the most. And I'll shut up sometimes and I'll have my producer split the screen and put them on for like a few minutes so I can get a glass of water or, run to the bathroom real quick, which is great because I do this in the comforts of my own home, folks. So the bathroom is literally out the door down the hallway, and I can go to the bathroom real quick, like, and they could talk. Joseph can get his plugs for his book. Sas can get his crazy stories out. And we can go, and the show could be carried. That's what's great about co-hosting. You have a co-host, they can carry your show if you get tired.
Right. If your tongue just decides that it's going off, well, then the guest or the host, the co-host sees it and says, "Oh, okay, got to slide in, got to get it going." Right.
Yeah. So, see, that's something I learned. That's something I learned a long time ago with terrestrial, Liz, is with the co-hosting. Like I would do the little tactics that I've learned when I was with 92.3 K-Rock up in New York City. Like, we were doing like these little programs in the early 2000s, which are now developed and evolved into other shows. They don't have those shows anymore on 92.3. A lot of them, like I said, either evolved. Some of them went to Sirius. We have a lot of personalities that were on that, such as the great Howard Stern, which is no longer part of 92.3. He went to Sirius. So you see a lot of those shows that evolved. And what I've learned about what we were just discussing about, the importance of co-hosting is, you are human. Yep. You're not a figment of your imagination. I'm not CGI. I'm real, folks. You're not seeing
there's CGI. No AI here.
Yeah. There's no CGI on Miss Liz. Like, you get tired, like, and you can always dip out. As the producers and the people in the other side of the studio, usually there's like a glass on one side. They could pick that up because that's what they do for a living. And you can give like I just did like that. That's a head nod in the radio. Yeah. And usually when they see that head nod, that indicates they have to use the bathroom, they need a glass of water, or they just need a break, And then that's when they go into a break where you hear the automated sound effects coming in saying 92.3 K-Rock. And then, you go into that, and then you hear that. And then after like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, you'll probably hear me, or you'll hear another personality, another host on the show. And then the show gets carried. But as a listener, see, I'm giving you a little secrecy of terrestrial into podcasting, because podcasting does the same thing. Yep. Certain podcasters, not all. That's when you know the rookies from the pros. The pros know this. The rookies and the amateurs that's just getting into it, they don't even know. So I just gave you a free lesson. There
you go. You just got a free lesson, guys.
You're welcome, by the way. So like that, you learn that, and it's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a big difference, right? From radio to podcasting. I've done both too, and it is completely different. So you get a different Miss Liz when Miss Liz does radio compared to Miss Liz's podcast, because I'm more free falling with the radio, because the music gets me going and the jive gets me going, and I give you recipes and give you all that good stuff. So do you miss radio, Michael?
I do and I don't. I miss the paid, how can I say this? The paid socialized events. And what I mean by that is every time there was an official event of that radio network, usually it was like a music festival, or we were at a fair, or a county fair, or anywhere, for that matter, a sporting event, and that event decided to use the radio network. We were there to promote and sell the network. That was all paid for the network, and it was great because it built up your character behind the network. It built me up, and it built others on the network up, and it created ratings, obviously, for the show as well, and through the network. But it helped you and your presence get out there, and that's what I miss. I miss the paid appearances, because what I mean by paid, we're talking about the catering was like top notch. The food, you've got to meet so many different people, that tune into the radio station and everything, and that's what I miss the most. I miss that, With podcasting, it more or less comes out of your own personal wallet.
Yep.
Or if you there now, there are some podcasters that are affiliated with huge networks, like Westwood One, Spotify for podcasters, and just to name a few. Those are big networks. Now, some of them are contracted, and some of them aren't. Like, I'm not contracted to anybody. I own my own rights. I own my entire show, graphics, everything is copyrighted through myself here, Savage Unfiltered and Truth Productions. Like, I own both of those networks. So that's great, but I do miss the radio a little bit. That I miss that part with the events I just mentioned. Now, what I don't miss is I don't miss the scripted stuff. Couldn't stand that scripted stuff. Like, towards the end of my career with that, I was getting fed up because after a while there was so much I wanted to bring in, but I had to watch, Liz, because of FCC. Because you're only allowed to express so much without the FCC dropping the hammer on you.
Yeah.
And they do. Back then, for every cuss word that was not allowed through FCC, it was like $200 fine for each cuss word. Now I'm sure it's gone up, through time and everything, and through society. Of course, the inflation has probably caused it a little bit too. But that I don't miss. I don't miss scripted stuff. I can't stand scripted stuff. I'm not a big fan of scripted stuff. So yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of like me. I hate the scripted stuff because I feel like I'm being programmed, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of filtering me to tell me how it needs to go. So it kind of makes me tight inside, and I'm just like, oh, but I need to say this. I want to get this out, but I can't say that. And the words are always changing. Like this every year, go and check the words that you're not allowed to say. Do your homework, do your research. I say this all the time on Teatime. Go out and check because everything changes every year. You might have been able to say that one word a year ago. This year, you're not allowed to say it. You're going to get flagged. You're going to get censored. You're going to, your content's going to be written up because you're not following guidelines. And there are guidelines. And that's why the disclaimer is out at the beginning of the show, because there are guidelines for StreamYard as well. They want to protect their audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Michael, I want to get into films because you've done a couple of films. So any films out there that...
A couple, more than a couple, but yeah.
Okay, so how many films have you done?
I've had the opportunity of been in, oh God, probably about 45.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's more than a couple.
Yeah, it's more than a couple. It's more. I can't count them on my hands. I only have 10. So, I need 45 fingers, Miss Liz, to count them.
You got to go boom, boom, boom like that.
Boom, boom. I look like an alien or something with 45 different thumbs and fingers. And, yeah.
Or that movie there with the extra long fingers there with Jamie Curtis in it there. It just came out. They just won an Oscar last year for it.
I seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, we need fingers like that. So each inch is 10 years, right? A decade. So
yeah.
So when's the last time you've done a film, Michael?
The last one. Now, when I mention these, of course, I have to give my own personal disclaimer and my own protection. With filming is a little different than talk radio or podcasting. You're only allowed to say so much. The reason for that is because everything is on a contract. Now, when I mean by contract, guys, let me get this out here so you guys understand. I'm not a SAG member, okay? I know SAG has been trending in the last week or two. I could say, and I'm proud to say this, I'm not part of SAG, thank God. I'm not a big fan of SAG. They've done so much diligence to certain actors and actresses and other people in the industry. So let's just get that out there. I'm not SAG, but that's not the contract I'm talking about. I'm talking about the contract through the production company, through the movie itself. Okay. I can express a little bit, but the last movie I was in the upcoming sequel to Beetlejuice 2. that's coming out next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was up in Vermont, where the movie was mainly shot in, where they used Vermont backlot and transformed it into New Hampshire, where the original story takes place. So I got to meet a lot of great people. Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, the new upcoming actress on that plays the daughter of Lydia, which is Winona Ryder. So I could tell you that part because everybody has, eyes on who's in the movie right now through social media. Now, a lot of people can go into the dirt sheets and they can get exactly what the hell the movie is about, if you really know how to do that. But see, as a person that was involved in it, I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to tell your audience, if you really want to know what it's about, wait until next year when it's released. So
Right. And go and watch it.
Yeah. It was a great movie. Really, really awesome movie. I could say there's a lot of stuff that is explained in this movie that was not explained in the first movie back in the 80s, with Alec Baldwin and, the original cast of it. But yeah, had a really, really awesome time on that movie. Really, really awesome time. But that was the most recent one. Now there's been others, but
well, and this is why I have guests like you on, Michael, so that we can get the right information out there, right? Because there's a lot of people running their mouths with so much false stuff, and
fake news.
Fake news, right? So I want the truth. I want the real stuff. I want people who actually live it and breathe it and understand it to get that information out there. So my listening audience can understand that there are a lot of false news, fake news out there. Go and get the good stuff. Reach out to professionals. Reach out to people who are actually doing it,
Absolutely.
And I'm honored to have you here, Michael, because I've been watching your show and your podcast, and I've been seeing your journey, and I like the flow of your show. I love how you bring in, the little jokes and quotes and all of that stuff, because it brings it into opening the mind, opening the conversation. And maybe that's when you're taking your pee breaks, or getting a glass of getting a glass of water.
Joseph always putting the puns where they're appreciated. He's like, well, all right, well, I'm gonna get going here, and I'll be right back, and then I put Joseph on the camera sometimes, and we give him the mic, and God, sometimes I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should have waited for that piss or that that water break, because Joseph, he's great. But when you put him solo, he freezes up and he loses the voice a little bit. Producer Shaky on the show, he's like, yelling at me as I'm down the hallway coming back in. He's like, Michael, get back in there. Joseph freezing up. He's not knowing what to say next. I'm like, oh, I got to be his mouthpiece again. All right, no problem.
Got to play some baseball with Joseph. If anybody wants to know who Joseph Leonard is,
Leonard.
I said it again. He's gonna come at me. I know he's gonna.
You got to say. Remember, he said this on your show. It's Leonard without the
Leonard, and I'm saying it the French way because I have the French blood in me, right? So I'm saying the Leonard because that's how we. But yes, it's Leonard, and I know Joseph, you're coming for me. I already know it.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, he's writing another book, by the way. He might put you in the book because he's probably gonna have to edit this part in his third book and say, you know what, I'm gonna put this in the book because Miss Liz is cracking up on me again.
Right. Yeah. Well, I got a few home runs in when he was on the show, so I really Joseph is a hoot. I really appreciate the guy.
He's old school. You gotta love him.
I love the old school, right? It's you can joke, you can actually have a joke and not be insulted. There's so many sugar-coated people out there. Like, I got a dark humor and I can come and swing just as good. I can get those home runs in as well. So
yeah, gotta have that dark humor.
Right. So Michael, I want to get into the merchandise because we're almost at the end here. We're getting close to the end. So I want to get into the merchandise, and you have some really cool merchandise on your website. So do you want to talk? Do you want to talk a little bit what you got so people can go out and get some, because it's really cool.
Yeah, well, the merchandise, guys, if you want to check that out, it's SAVAGEDUNFILTEREDPODCAST.com. Now, if you make sure you put the D at the end of Savaged, because if you just put SAVAGEDUNFILTEREDPODCAST.com, you might get the 404 error box that pops up. Don't do that, guys. Then you'll be emailing the show. Michael's giving out fake shit on the show, you know. But no, SAVAGEDUNFILTEREDPODCAST.com. Thanks. I see Miss Liz putting that on our thing. Appreciate that. Check it out, guys. We have a lot of great stuff on there, from Don't Be a Karen to, There's a Double Entendre. You got to support Joseph stuff. A lot of great stuff on there. A lot of great stuff. Since when is it extreme to support the Constitution? That's one of our new pieces on there. I wish I can give you every little thing, but I don't want to tie up Miss Liz's show here, which is all that boring stuff. You have to go look it out for yourself. So SAVAGEDUNFILTEREDPODCAST.com. We have a promo right now for Off the Mic. We're going to give you 75% off your entire order. So check it out. I know times are tough. Yeah, Shaky, he's here with me, and, he's making sure I don't screw up. But Shaky telling me, yeah, Mike, it hurts me too just by saying that. Yeah, I know times are tough, guys. So that's why we threw that promo in there, Off the Mic. You get 75% off your entire order. Now, there's no expiration date on that, Miss Liz, and to your audience. We decided to keep that up until we feel it's necessary to remove the damn promo. So, yeah, that's why it's up there, to pretty much tackle the inflation that we're seeing in the United States here and across the board, because times are tough. They want to support their patriotism here in the United States. They want to support the tyranny that we're facing here in the United States from this president and through other leadership. And they want to represent. But they're not going to be able to afford the damn T-shirt because of the freaking inflation. So that's why we threw the promo code out there. So check that out. We also have coffee merchandise that we just launched. We have our own coffee blend. So that's
no tea blend, but coffee blend, right?
No tea. It's all coffee. It's coffee and protein. We have protein on there, whey protein for all my bodybuilders and people that like staying active and healthy and this and that. And we have our coffee, and that was just launched about a week ago. Yeah.
Okay, so we got the merchandise, we got the radio, we got the podcast, we got the disc jockey, we got the films. Now let's get into the book.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to give the coffee. It's SavageArmyExtras.storefront.live. So.
Oh, okay.
Getting ahead of myself. I'm forgetting to plug the shit in, So.
You'll have to send it to me so I can plug it into the comments so people can grab that coffee, right? I mean, we're giving coffee this morning. We're not giving tea, right?
Yeah. No tea. No tea.
Because we don't serve tea beverage here. We serve an actual teaching educational awareness tea, At the beginning of the show, Michael said that his tea was topics, excellence, and ability. And as a podcaster and as a host, we all need those three parts of our tea, right? So, Michael, I want to get into the book before we wrap up, because we've got just a couple minutes left. So
sure.
I want to get into the book. So how did you start?
Yeah, I've been trying to get into a lot of stuff. I know you have so much time, so it's I mean,
right? I just sit back and relax here.
Definitely gonna have to put me on for part 2, because there's so much of this journey. I can't say it in 1 hour, guys. So
right? we got so much, but I want to get into the book. So how did you get the title of the book, and what is the book about?
America's Political Warfare: Our Modern Civil War. How I came up with the title is what we're seeing right now in the country. We're seeing a modern civil war unfold in front of our eyes. And what I mean by that, folks, is you're seeing huge amounts of tyranny, your rights being restricted, and your liberties being taken away. Now, your rights being restricted, we've seen that through COVID. And thank God we're not living through that nightmare again, because I said this, Miss Liz, 3 years ago on my show, that it was a fabrication of lies, and it was a political circus and a theater, to try to bring down the former president of this country, Donald Trump. And I was right. because exactly what they did and planned to this man is now what they're doing, or what they were doing to the citizens of this country. They were trying to make a mockery of people itself and through the president. And like I said, I'm glad that that whole nightmare of COVID's gone, and the whole plandemic, because I call them plandemics. I don't call them pandemics. It's a plan. Every 4 years in this country, there's plans to try to manipulate the election process. We've seen that with Donald Trump. We're going to see that again in 2024. God knows what they're going to be coming up with now. Now they're doing the friggin' indictments against the guy, which I think is pathetic. Fake indictments, PP tapes and Russian strippers peeing on them. I mean, that's all nonsense. You don't want to see that shit.
Yeah.
But how I came up with the book, exactly what we're seeing. I created the book, Miss Liz, for a wake-up call to try to get people waking, not woke. You're seeing a lot of that shit today with the woke, And I think it's a book that needed to be written. I think it's a book that needed to be published because there's a lot of books out there, yes, that shows more of an inside dirt sheet of a nation or like the United States here. There's a lot of books out there like that. But I think my book's a little different because my book actually goes into the facts. It goes into the realization of this country and where it can go versus where we don't want it to go. So.
And I'm glad that you put that wake up, because you hear that all the time, right? That woke. Everyone's using that. Are you woke? You're woke. You're woke. And I'm just like, seriously, guys, like, stop with the woke. Like, just be honest and truthful, and let's just get the facts out there. I'm the same way with you, Michael. I feel that it was just a plan, right? And now yesterday I was reading on Instagram about a new pandemic that's coming, a new plan that's coming, right? They just want to shut us down all the time. They just want to censor us. They just want to close us up. How do we bring any education out there if we're always being closed down?
Well, you got to keep on doing what you're doing right now. Podcasting is a clear example of how to challenge all this wokeness, and all this corruption that you're seeing. Be the mouthpiece for America. Be the mouthpiece for where Miss Liz is in Canada. Be that mouthpiece for your country. Don't be afraid of expressing yourself. You might get a few people that tune in. You might get hundreds of thousands of people tuning in. But guess what, guys? You're saying this right now, right? Okay? This show will resonate with somebody maybe today, tomorrow, next week, years and years from now. That's what's great about podcasting. It will always resonate the right audience. Don't be afraid to voice out. That's how we can beat all this. A voice out, because nothing lasts forever. It's only temporary.
Right? And don't worry about the numbers today. Worry about the numbers that, like you just said, Michael, might be next week, might be next year. Somebody's going to resonate with this Teatime in sometime down the road,
Absolutely.
And stop looking at the numbers and start looking at the facts. Start looking and listening to good content and getting educated. And that's why Miss Liz serves teaching educational awareness. I'm teaching that there are facts out there, and stop the fear, stop the corruption, stop the lies, stop pretending, and take the mask off. Be yourself, be authentic. And that's why I have you here, Michael, is because I want authentic guests on my platform. I want people that actually are not scared to say the truth, because there's so many people living in fear. So many people, we can't say that. We can't do this. We can't do that. Yes, you can. Because you're going to get judged either way, guys.
Yeah.
They're going to judge you. You do good, you get judged. Oh my God, she's such a, brown noser. She just like that teacher's pet. And then you have somebody, oh my God, she's a rebel. She's a troublemaker. Well, Miss Liz has got a little bit of everything in me. So you're getting a flavor of everything. You know, some days I am that, that sugar coat and says, you know what, add some sugar to your tea. And other days I'm just like, put the whiskey in there. You know, I need a shot.
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah.
want real raw.
Lay it on the table, guys. Yeah, just lay your stuff on the table and use podcasting in a good way. Express it.
Yeah.
Whether people want to listen to it or not. If you don't want to listen to it, you know what I say, Miss Liz? Thank you for your support. Take it easy now. Bye-bye.
Right?
That's it.
There's other ones out there. That's what I say. Move on to the next table. Miss Liz isn't serving what you want. Go to the next table. So, Michael, I really want to thank you for joining me today on Tea Time, and I want to thank all the audience and listeners. And if you're watching the Tea Time today, please push hashtag replay and let me know where you're tuning in from, because I always like to know where you guys are tuning in from. I can give you a shout out and share this Tea Time. If it resonates with you and you know somebody out there that it will resonate with, share it to them. Miss Liz just wants to get the message out there. I want the truth out there. So I will be back at 3 p.m. with the second Tea Time. I'm having a returning guest from season 3. Jeff Rosley will be back in, and we'll be talking about I can't even say the word. Humanitarian aid. I can't even say the word.
Get it out of there.
Jeff's going to be like, oh my God, Miss Liz, what are you doing? I can't say the
word.
word. Sorry, Jeff. But Jeff will be back at 3 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., I have Scott Overton from Northern Ontario coming in, and he's going to be talking about science fiction. So today it's going to be all men. So we have United States and Canada. That's just the way I roll. And then we do it all over again next week. So again, Michael, thank you for joining me on Tea Time. And it was an honor having you here, and you're welcome back anytime. So part 2, look out for it.
Thank you. Hat tip to you.